When bad things happen to you, instead of asking, why me? Why now? Why? Whatever, fill in the
Mm-hmm.
blank. Instead of asking why, ask what.
Mm.
Instead of asking why, ask what. Instead of asking why is this happening, accept that it is happening and figure out what is the lesson, what is the growth that I'm supposed to be getting from this. Welcome to the Bonafide Leaders Podcast, a podcast about leaders for leaders, one that exists to inspire legitimate and authentic leadership in the workplace and beyond. And I'm your host, Tim G. Williams, ICF certified executive coach and consultant. Now, regardless of where you are in your leadership journey, aspiring, emerging, established, or retired, this is for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Bonafide Leaders Podcast experience. Welcome into another edition of the Bonafide Leaders Podcast. I am your host, Tim G. Williams, and I'm excited to have with me my partner in crime. Not really crime, but my
Good
partner.
crime. Good crime.
I've got Erin with me,
Hello.
and you guys may remember Erin from prior seasons. I want to talk today a little bit about kind of the background of the podcast, and then get into season 4, which I'm very excited to talk about. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit about my story related to this theme for season 4. That's kind of where we're headed. So, Erin, I'll toss it over to you and
All right.
have us get going.
Perfect. I love the theme. We're gonna have to listen for just a minute to know it. But let's first remind the audience of you.
Yeah.
So a little bit about your background, what you do, and then just how you got to where you're at.
Yeah. 22 years in corporate. Worked for a large semiconductor company, Dallas-Fort Worth. Also spent some time out in Silicon Valley. And back in the early 2020s, right in the middle of COVID, coronavirus, I was thinking about, what would be next, from the corporate career. And so I got into coaching school at the University of Texas at Dallas. Really enjoyed coaching. I said, you know what? I think I might want to do this a little more often. And so ended up a couple years later starting this business full-time. Bonafide Leaders is the name of the business. And so, of course, now we have this podcast, which is an extension, a brand extension of the business, the Bonafide Leaders business. And so what I do now is I'm an ICF executive coach, certified. I also do organizational consulting, keynote speaking, as well as leadership development. So I work with the senior executives, leaders, established leaders, emerging leaders, really helping them grow their business, help them grow their teams, help them get more effective. And at the end of the day, that leads to higher retention rates. It leads to bottom line business results. And I care about both, right? The people, the organization, as well as the business. And so this, that's me, basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. And I've been really enjoying this. I'm in almost a third full year, which is crazy. It's kind of hard to think about doing that on my own now as a small business owner, but that's the business.
Yeah, one step at a time. Do you focus on any industries, or is it pretty agnostic when it comes to do you focus anywhere, or is it pretty just?
I'm working on focusing.
Okay.
But the nature of a small business owner is that, especially as you're new with this, right? You sort of take business as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And so my audience up to this point is primarily leaders, right? So I work with CFOs, CEOs. I work with Fortune 500, directors. But in terms of an industry, man, it's been everything from higher education to healthcare to technology to finance. I mean, it just kind of runs the gamut.
Yeah.
But I am working on focusing. I haven't quite arrived there yet.
Okay. Yeah. It'll come. Yeah. Well, and it's just you kind of start realizing like who the ideal clients are, where you see.
Exactly. I mean, it's a lot of nonprofit stuff too. For profit, it really just kind of depends on the situation. But for sure, right, if you just think about the name of the business, it's Bonafide Leaders, right? Trying to help authentic and legitimate leadership flourish in the workplace. Because when leadership flourishes beyond just a title, it really makes a major impact, I've found, as a leader. And as I've observed others, it just makes a bigger impact as opposed to just, oh, yeah, I'm a leader, this is my title.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, how are you impacting the people? How are you impacting the organization? That's really what it's all about.
All right. And then just from a perspective of, I think it's important to note, too, where you grew or, your growth, and not to go into the whole trajectory of your career, But just talking about, I would love to know, like, you ended up going high in the ranks of a pretty huge company. And what was it that you struggled with, or you kind of, what happened in that career that made you want to help others?
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I was privileged to be a executive, vice president. I worked directly for our CEO in my last role at the company, and so I did have a seat at the table. I was a major decision maker on lots of major events that took place in the company. Did lots of analysis to help us figure out what was our next step, next course of action. But you know what? Throughout all my tenure working, I really enjoy working with people. I really enjoyed helping people improve and get better. And really, it's kind of what I do away from the corporate job too, and what I still do to this day. I mean, I coach basketball team, so this is an eighth grade basketball team I'm coaching right now. And what I love about it is just helping each kid develop to their fullest potential. And I think really that's my calling in life. I believe that's what God put me on this earth to do. At least one of the things that He put me on this earth to do is be able to see in people maybe what they cannot see in themselves and help them to develop, to grow, and to become their best. And so over the course of my career, I think I was in probably year 7. I first started supervising and managing people day to day. But before that, I was leading teams. I remember the diversity team that I was a part of back in 2004. So that would have been probably year 4. I was the sub-team leader of a big team with a lot of executives on that team. And I really enjoyed that. Before that, I did competitive analysis, and I was leading, again, another large team, cross-functional, really senior engineers. And so what I just really enjoy is helping a business run really, really well. And I've always enjoyed helping people and the organization become the best that it can be. You put that together, that I think is the genesis for what ultimately became Bonafide Leaders and what it is today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we want to jump into season
Yeah,
4.
yeah. Let's get into it. So season 4.
All right, so what is the theme? I will just say I love what you do with your podcast.
Thank you.
I use you as an example for a lot where you have obviously the undercurrent, the foundation is leaders talking to leaders, how they
Yep.
overcome. But I love how you wrap themes around your seasons, and then this one is we've gone. I know taking the leap.
Making
And
the
one
leap.
side
Yeah,
note,
yeah.
I still have a beef with you because of
What's
his
the
taking
beef?
the
What'd I
leap.
do?
You made my engineer quit.
Oh, what? Oh,
Because
man.
your podcast was so good about taking the leap that she was actually like, I got to take the leap and go do something I've been dreaming about. But
My
it's okay.
bad.
That means
My-
you're making some good content.
My bad.
It's all good. Last year was, oh my gosh.
The intersection.
The
We
intersection
talked
of
about
Yes,
sports
that's right.
and business
Yes.
and leadership. And then we can't forget that first season, which was just trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
That first season was really about kind of first me just talking about thoughts on leadership.
Yeah.
So how do we select the right people? How do we hire the right people? What's a foolproof interviewing system? Talked about change and change management, how to navigate that. So all those kinds of topics. Go back and listen to season 1 if you really want to hear me not have a clue of what I'm doing. I'm still learning. And then, season 3, all about that intersection, which you all know if you know me. That's,
Yes.
3 of my favorite loves: sports, business, leadership, not to mention Tex-Mex and that kind of stuff. And then this season, we're talking about season 4, setbacks. Setbacks, mistakes, failures, just situations that really good leaders have faced and struggled through. And what did it take to kind of get on the other side?
Yeah.
And this season, I really want for the listener, for them to feel that pain
Yeah.
that the leader was in at that point in time. It may have been a long time ago, it may have been recent. I just think it's really important for every person, no matter where you're at, to get some hope and know that, you know what, you're probably struggling with something today. And you probably struggled with something last year.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're probably going to struggle, make a mistake, have some failure next year. The whole thing is, what's our mindset when we go through those really difficult times? And so I'm calling it the pit or the valley, whatever you want to, associate with it. But it's all about those setbacks, those disappointments, those times in our life when we faced some significant challenges, they impacted us personally, professionally, and how we kind of got through it.
I
So that's
love
the
it.
focus for season 4.
I love it too because I think it's such an important topic. I don't think a lot of people you see all the success,
Oh
right? And you
yeah,
see the highlight reel, especially now with social media. We see
absolutely.
everybody killing it, quote
Everybody's
unquote.
killing it. Yeah,
Everybody,
everybody's
yeah.
killing it. Nobody's struggling.
No. And it's as a leader, if you really are in a growth mindset and pushing yourself, you are constantly going to be in places you've never been before
Hmm.
that you don't know how to navigate through. And I'm sorry, nobody hits 1,000, right?
No,
Like
you don't.
you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna have hard times, you're gonna have all of this, and I love that we can openly talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's not you're a bad person because this happened to you. It's you're human.
In fact, yeah, I would say one of the common traits, if you really start to read biographies of people,
Hmm.
which I've started to do more and more, you'll find that many people who have achieved incredible levels of quote unquote success often had very low, deep, despairing moments of pain. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
Hmm.
I don't think that's a coincidence. In fact, one of the things that people used to ask me a lot, go back to the corporate career, is they used to be like, "Hey Tim, this is back when I'm getting promoted. People could see that, okay, you're like director, vice president, what have you. You're in front of people all the time, and they want to know, hey, what's your secret to success? But more importantly, one of the things that I remember them asking me a lot was, tell me about some of your failure and how you came back when things didn't go the way you wanted them to." And I remember, Aaron, so many times when people would ask that to me, like in a one-on-one situation or in a group setting, and I never had a really good answer for them. And I think the reason I never really had a good answer was because, when you're in it, you're just running hard. You're just
Yes.
running fast. You don't really have the time, the reflection time. You're
Right.
not be intentional about that. At least I wasn't. Think back and figure out, okay, what was that like to fail
Hmm.
and to not have success at something? You just when you're in the middle of that striving or that purpose or that thing that you're doing, oftentimes we don't have the reflection. We don't make time for the reflection. That was definitely me. Now, as a small business owner, having been out of the what I'll call the rat race of corporate life, I've had a lot more time to kind of think and process and digest different season of life and things that have happened. Journal,
Yeah.
write stuff down, and when you got time to think, I think it begins to kind of clear things up a little bit. And so I feel like I hope, as part of today's conversation, the listener will hear sort of what that was like
Yeah.
to be in the pit and what it was like to kind of come out of the pit.
Well, so I love to how for each season, you're kind of, you're the story. There's obviously something in your life that's happened where this theme hits home for you, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about your valley, your deepest valley, and the story behind what inspired you to want to do this particular show or this season.
Yeah. Um, I would say the toughest time in my life. Um, and people are gonna think about this. They're gonna be like, "Really, Tim? You're gonna go way back to there?" But I'm gonna go way back. My junior year of high school through about my junior year of college, that 4-year stretch was tough, and in many ways, it has shaped me more than any other 3 or 4 year period of my life. I would say unequivocally, it shaped me more than any other period of my life. And I mean, the backdrop is this. For those who listen to the podcast, you all know that I was a student athlete. And I had these dreams, Aaron. I had these
So we
dreams.
all do, yes.
And so my dream was to, first of all, get a college basketball scholarship, specifically Division I basketball scholarship. And then secondly, to play in the NBA, National Basketball Association, so to play as a professional. And my mom was great because she was one of those ladies who just encouraged, encouraged, encouraged. And that was great on one hand. On the other hand, there was not really a thought of, well, you actually might not achieve that.
Yeah.
but but as a kid, I mean, I was just focused on the dream.
Yeah.
if you fast forward to, at this point in my life, I think most people know, unfortunately, I did not achieve either one of those goals. But they were not only goals, I mean, they were dreams. They were things that, if you go look at my high school yearbook right now, people in high school assumed and thought, hey, when you get to the NBA, literally, this is what people said: send me tickets. Don't forget about me.
Wow.
That is kind of the trajectory, mindset wise, that I have for myself. And when that doesn't happen, it's pretty crushing.
So, can you talk about specific moments through that where I hate to say reality set in?
Mm-hmm.
Specific first, maybe the D1 thing's not happening. The colleges aren't knocking down your doors like you thought they would. Are you still like, where does hope start to falter through the
Mm.
whole thing?
So, first of all, go back to my high school.
Mm-hmm.
So my high school was a traditional high school. So today in the state of Texas, the biggest, what they call UIL conference or division, would be 6A. So that means from a tuition, not a tuition, but an enrollment perspective,
Yeah.
this is the largest school. And every state, I think, is organized similarly, right? So my high school would have been an equivalent of a 6A. So it's a really big, the biggest
Yeah.
of big Texas high schools. And unfortunately, my high school was traditional, at least the way my coaches thought about things. And so if you were a senior, you got to play a lot so long as you were good. But if you were not a senior, you kind of got in where you fit in. And most juniors, there were no sophomores that I can think of, played varsity, which if you want to actually get a Division I scholarship, playing a lot as a junior is almost a prerequisite. In fact, I don't know very many people who I played college basketball with who were not, if not starting as a junior, were not
Yeah.
playing significant minutes. And I probably played 5% of all of my minutes on varsity as a junior. So I knew things was going to be great when I was a senior, but you're taking a really, really, you're behind. I was
Yeah.
behind. And so I remember being in Las Vegas. I don't know if this was the summer between my sophomore and junior year or junior and senior year, but Las Vegas is the place where you have the big AAU tournaments every year, summertime. And so it's a recruiting period. And so there's Coach K, the old Duke basketball coach, and Roy Williams, the coach of North Carolina, and all these great, incredible coaches. He may have been at Kansas at the time. But anyway, Bobby Knight from Indiana, all in the gym. And some of the players on my team are getting these letters. So after games, people are handing them these letters, and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And so the letters, of course, are letting the player know that, hey, we're interested in you. We want to recruit you, and want to know if you're interested in our school, kind of thing. I didn't get any of those. So that was, I think, the moment where I began to lose hope. Is that it's like, golly, I'm a junior in high school. I'm not even playing on varsity yet. All of my contemporaries who I play with in the summer, who are going to be playing college basketball, they're already there. They're getting letters. I'm not. Like, is this going to happen for me? I think that's probably when the doubt began to kind of creep in pretty significantly.
Did you dig in or did you take a step back?
What I did that I could control is that I had a buddy. His name was Jacob. Jacob had a car. Very important ingredient to this thing. So Jacob would ask me if I was interested to go play in Dallas. So we lived in a suburb called Arlington in this area, and it was about a 25-mile drive. But he had a car. He was like, "Hey, if you want better competition, you got to come with me to Dallas." And so I'm like, "Okay." So I would say I dug in the sense that I took a ride with Jacob, and we would go to Dallas, and we would play with, I would say, a higher level competition. So in the summer times, I played with guys from like Dallas Lincoln High School and all over the Metroplex, all these Carrollton team. I mean, everywhere in the Metroplex, guys from Fort Worth. And it was a much, much higher level, both of competition and coaching. I couldn't get that at the high school that I was at. So I felt like I dug in. I worked really, really hard, but I was still behind. And, I don't want to make a complete excuse, but this is just what it was. We were talking about this before we came on. My son's wearing contacts now. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to get contacts in until like midway through my senior year. I just
Mm-hmm.
tried and tried, just could never get them on. And so there was always this worry, of how I looked. I got this little band coming around my head, very, very dorky looking. Glasses, really couldn't afford goggles, so it just was not something that helped me either. And so maybe it was more my own kind of psyche at that time,
Yeah.
not be able to kind of work through that. But yeah, I felt like I worked really hard. But at my high school, I just knew that I wasn't going to have an opportunity until my senior year.
So you move into senior year,
Yeah.
probably still hoping for those D1s. The D1 offers don't come. So when do you make that decision of, all right, I'm going to have to, now it's going to be plan B, right? I'm not giving up on the dream.
Yep.
I still want to play. I just have to show myself in a different light or a
Yep.
different way.
Yep.
How do you shift that trajectory in your life?
So the cool thing is that although there was not really a plan B per se, my mom always valued education. So we were instructed, hey, you work hard at school, you make good grades, that kind of a thing. So I was never academically ineligible. One of those kids. I wasn't at the top of my class, but I certainly wasn't at the bottom either. So I worked hard at school, and so I thought that by the time, I don't know, this was probably like April. You're getting ready to graduate in May as a high school student, and I had no Division I offers. I think I had at this point a couple of junior college offers, but it's like I'm not going to junior college. Like I visited the junior college, and no shade, no, I'm not trying to, but it just wasn't the right fit for
Yeah.
me. There were some Division III schools that would call, and back to the academics. So that's Division III, generally speaking, means it's a good academic school, but they don't offer athletic scholarships. So you have to, have some kind of a need, or you got to get some type of a merit in order to get, at those schools. And I just, at that time, Division III was like, oh my God, that's like impossible. I can't get to Division III. But they would look at me because my grades were good enough to be able to get into some of those schools. There was this particular school called Occidental College out in Los Angeles. I think they were one that was recruiting me. I think Trinity in San Antonio, I think they were recruiting me. I think there's San Antonio, there's some school. And then the Division I schools pretty much were all waiting for the people who they really wanted to tell them yes.
The letter kids, yeah.
Yeah. So I knew that I probably wouldn't go that route. So it's maybe May, and there's nothing. So at this point, I just think, okay, I'll just have to go to the local college. We don't have enough money to be able to like pay for my college, so it's going to be debt, which I did not want to do. My
Yeah.
mom was like, can't do that. But I just thought I would have to go to the local college. And then miraculously, there was this organization, it may even still be around, I have no idea, called College Prospects of America. You ever heard of College Prospects? All right. So I have no idea if organizations like this exist anymore. But the idea is they get all your tape, your game film, and they chop it up, and then they get your profile, and they basically send it out on your behalf to all these colleges. And apparently one of these schools on the East Coast had found this. So they called me and like, hey, we see your profile, look like you're pretty good. We don't really have any athletic scholarships. I'm like, oh, well, why are you calling me?
Exactly.
But anyway, they called and they were like, yeah, but what we can do based upon your grades, I think we can get you an academic scholarship. And because we still have slots on the basketball team, you can play as a member of the basketball team. I'm like, oh, really? So for the first time in a long time, it's like May of my senior year, getting ready to graduate. I may have already graduated. I don't remember the time. And it's like, wow, I could have an opportunity. So this is at this Division II school on the East Coast. And long story short is that ultimately they offer me this full academic ride. And I'm like, I'm going. I never visited the school.
Wow.
I never heard of the school. But they were giving me a chance to fulfill my dream. I couldn't do the Division I dream unless I would maybe transfer later. But there was still an opportunity to make the NBA. So I went.
And then how was that experience? Was it everything you dreamed it would be?
Well, you got that look on your face.
Because I think I might know the answer. I do know that, yeah.
Yeah, nah, it was not exactly what I had expected, but it was also not what I expected in some other positive ways too.
Okay.
So from a basketball standpoint, the basketball was really good. So this was a situation where it was the top Division II conference, and a number of guys who played in this particular conference actually went to the NBA. One of those was Ben Wallace, who ended up playing for the Detroit
Yeah.
Pistons years ago, won a championship with them. And so I'm like, you know what? There could be a path. And so I was hopeful for that. So once I got into the gym with the team, I realized, man, these dudes are good. Like, wow. I mean, in fact, we had 3 Division I transfers on our team. So I mean, like,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
the basketball was good. But unfortunately, like, I don't know, 15 days before I was about to be on campus, they fired the coach who recruited me.
Oh.
And so the new coach came in, and you know how that works. New coach is like, I don't know you because I didn't recruit you. And so you got to prove yourself to this new coach because he's got his own idea about who he wants. And this was a team that existed that now would be very normal, but we had a number of 22, 23, 24-year-old kind of fifth-year senior people who things just didn't work out for them at other places, and they transferred in. And so we had a very, again, our team was solid from a. So as a freshman to come into that, just like today, right? If you're a freshman and you're trying to get playing time against juniors and seniors, it's very difficult, right? Just from a size, maturity, all that stuff, knowledge of the game. So the same thing for me. But the coach was telling me, hey, you have an opportunity to like be the backup point guard or even compete for the starting position at the point guard. I just didn't believe him. I didn't have enough confidence in myself. Maybe he was shooting me straight. Maybe he wasn't. But I ended up playing. I was the backup point guard, and then I got hurt.
Oh.
I had a really bad groin injury that I got in practice. If you know anything about NCAA Division II relative to NCAA Division I or any other lower level that's not like a power conference Division I, you don't exactly have expert trainers. You don't have a staff of people who can help you out with strength and conditioning and meal prep and all that kind of stuff. Misdiagnosed my injury. They told me, hey, just get out there and play. It should be fine. And I wanted to play. A coach always said, hey, if you don't practice, you don't play. And so I'm like, hey, how am I going to get to the NBA if I don't play? So that actually made the injury worse. I ended up having to sit out like most of the season. I played in just a few games. And I thought, okay, cool. I'll just get a medical red shirt. I talked to the coach, and he was like, yeah, we'll get you a medical red shirt. But as I would find out with many things, the coach had no idea what he was talking about. He didn't do any homework and research to know what, in fact, what games will qualify for a medical red shirt, which would enable me to basically, have another freshman year
Yeah.
do over. Found out that summer that no, there was no medical red shirt that was going to be provided for you. So basically, I had played a full year, even though I hadn't played a full year.
Yeah.
That really, really sucked. So that was the first of future balls to drop. But then the summer came. So the summer, my brother was now graduating high school senior. He was about to go play basketball at a school in New Mexico. I happened to go on that visit with him to New Mexico, and the coach had us just work out, right? So it's all the guys. And having come from a really good basketball place, and I'm very healthy, I play pretty good.
Yeah.
And the coach was like, "You need to come here." So the coach offered me a scholarship basically on the spot. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna go back to my other school, and I'm confident now that I'm healthy. I'm gonna be in the right place. And my game was better.
Yeah.
I was more confident. All the stuff that you need to have in basketball was better. I was in great condition, but unfortunately, that coach at that school on the East Coast Division II that I was at, he decided to go ahead and recruit 3 more guards, which meant once again, it's not a winning situation in terms of getting opportunities to play. I didn't play very much, and then I decided, unfortunately, without listening to the wisdom of my mother, I should have just gone ahead and gone to that school in New Mexico when that coach offered me. But I thought, no, there's no way things will be any worse than they were the year before. Unfortunately, they were, and I was stuck once again. Bonafide Leaders works with senior executives, established leaders, and emerging leaders. We exist to help you, your business, and your teams thrive, specializing in executive coaching, leadership development, organizational consulting, and keynote speaking, providing the absolute highest level of quality and service. We partner with our clients to help them elevate their leadership effectiveness, navigate organizational change, culture, and leadership transitions, leading to bottom-line results. If these are the problems you're seeking to solve, reach out to me at bonafideleaders.com/contact, and let's explore together.
It's easy hindsight 2020, and you don't want to be the kid that's jumping either. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be that kid where you're just taking the next best thing. And I mean, I don't. That's a tough situation because I don't fault you for saying, you know what, I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
So the guards come in.
Yeah.
You're seeing this reality of it's, the writing's on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
When do you say, all right, the NBA is slipping further and further away, and maybe this isn't going to happen?
Yeah. Truth be told, it was my freshman year where I think the NBA dream went away. And the way it went down was like this. It wasn't as a being able to play basketball and compete at my level. I felt good that I could hold my own. But my assistant coach was about 6'7", about 225, solid as a rock, and could shoot the lights out. He was very skilled, and he had played a lot of years. He was an All-American in college, and he ended up playing overseas for a lot of years. And he had told us his story of how, unfortunately, he could not make an NBA roster 2 or 3 times. He was the last guy cut.
Wow.
From like the Detroit Pistons, the Washington Bullets, and one other team. And so he was really good, but he had a knee brace. And one day he decided to challenge 2 of the guards to like play us one-on-one. Now keep in mind, he's still in his late 20s, probably early 30s at this point. And I'm like, you want to play us?
Yeah.
One of you against 2 of us. And I'm like, shoot, I'll take that. So I don't remember who the other person was on the team, but it was me and another guard. I'm about 6 foot, 6'1". Of course, you know that if you miss, he's going to get the rebound, okay, because he's just bigger and stronger. But you figure surely we can guard, 2 of us against one dude. Long story short, we played to like 10 and he beat us.
Wow.
Okay, so immediately I've always been logical and had the ability to analyze. And it's like, okay, I just played a guy who could not make an NBA roster, who is 6 inches taller than me, 40 pounds heavier than me, strong, solid as a rock, and he's actually 5 years removed from playing professional basketball. And he just beat me and another guard who were playing college basketball. Can I really make an NBA roster? Probably not. So I kind of swallowed that bullet at that point. Coming back my sophomore year, though, I felt like I still had enough ability and skill that if I just got on the court and played, people would see that, and I'd still have a chance to play professionally. And what that meant professionally is just like it is today. There's Italian leagues and German leagues and French leagues, Australian leagues. I had a buddy who tried to play in the Filipino league. There's all these leagues professionally that you can play in. I just figured I would do that. That was the thinking.
Okay. So at what point now things are derailing, on your team? I still commend you for not jumping ship on the New Mexico, but you're kind of, now you're like, should have done that. At what point do you start looking at this going, okay, maybe now even professionals slipping through, like any professional, all of those options might be falling off the table.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Erin.
Yeah.
So again, the coach had recruited 3 other guards. I'm better than one. The other ones maybe we're about the same. The other one is probably better than me. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to play much here. And the way coach did practice, I won't get into the details, but it was like set up in a way that put me at my weakest. It just was, I could tell I wasn't one of his guys.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And he didn't recruit me. I get that. So one day I said, you know what? If I'm going to be able to play professional basketball, I got to get up out of here. Now, my pride was hurt. And because my mom, she told me, you ought to just go with your brother to this school in New Mexico. And that would have been cool in my mind for my brother and for my mom, but not for me, because this school in New Mexico was also a military school, which meant I was going to be going from a Division II HBCU on the East Coast, 1,300 miles away from home with complete freedom, to, I got to like salute people and, wear a uniform and have study hall. Like that just didn't compute for me at that time.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's like, well, how am I going to play? I didn't see it happen at a Division II school, so I went ahead and transferred. Went to my coach's office. Now, this is one of the sweet moments. I went to his office, and I'm like, hey, coach, got something I want to tell you. So he's busy doing other things because, again, he never has time for me. And I'm like, hey, coach, just so you know, I'm going to be leaving. He's like, looks up right away. He's stunned because the thing that he valued about me is that, I was basically an academic All-American. Had I played, I would have been like one of those academic all-conference, all-American kind of people. And so that was his kind of crown jewel to sort of have this individual who he could show off as, oh yeah, we value our grades at this place. We recruit from all over the country because I was from Texas and this is in North Carolina, but I was never going to be one of the people that was going to play meaningful minutes. So I transfer, get to the military school. It sucks.
It's everything you thought it would be.
So get there in December of 1997, and I had no appreciation for like how cold it gets in the semi-mountains, this arid part of the country. So the first 21 days you get to this military school, you are a rat. A rat. So the rat means that you are a recruit at training. And it means that you stand in this position. All the military people listening will know what I'm talking about. You stand at parade rest in this, basically it's this little spot where the wind just runs through really, really hard. And you stand there for a really long time and you cannot move. Your eyes got to be straight ahead. That was like your first introduction to, hey, welcome to this wonderful school in New Mexico. The bright side was that I was going to be able to play with my brother, so I was excited about that. And I thought I'd be able to play right away in January. But then I find out that according to the rule book, if you've played in any exhibition games at a Division II or Division I level, you are ineligible to play at this school. Once again, I have a coach who did not do his homework, who told me I'd be eligible to play right away, didn't do his homework, and therefore I'm ineligible to play at this junior college, which means I have to do an appeal to the NCAA, the National Junior College Association as well, and hopefully, they would get me eligible. Fast forward, unfortunately, they rule back and say, nope, sorry, we deny your appeal. And I'm at this military school saluting people and pushing up in the snow and all this kind of stuff. My hair is completely off my head. I have no freedom. It was bad.
That's
bad.
rough.
Yeah.
How do you start to, I mean, it's got to be so hard too, because the dream is moving. Time is of an essence here, right? Like you are losing time. How do you begin to face a reality? And it's just, I mean, you talk about a valley and it's not like you can just be, all right, I'm just going to practice some more basketball and this is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
but as crazy as that sounds, Erin, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Even at this point, I'm depressed. No question about it. I mean, there were many nights. So I ended up having 2 different roommates at the military school, and it's like lights out at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I had the top bunk. I think he was in the bottom bunk. But what would happen is that lights out, he starts to go to sleep, and I would just cry in my bed. I mean, just crying like this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Like, this is horrible. This is so unlike what I wanted to have happen. And like you say, it just feels like it's slipping away, like it's never going to happen. So I get to about a year at this military school. And I guess, again, I'm always looking at the bright side. I guess I was just kind of raised that way, or maybe that's my disposition, is to just see the positive in everything. The one positive is that I can get an associate's degree from this place. And so, okay, I got my associate's degree in business administration. I toughed it out. One thing I didn't tell you is that when we had that 21 days of hell, they call it, right? The recruit at training, the rat period, there were about 40-ish of us who also transferred in at that point. I believe about half made it through the 21 days. So it's designed, maybe it's not designed, but it doesn't reward those who are mentally weak, put it that way. And so
the cream rises. We'll just put it that way. The good people stay.
I don't know about that, but it was a really hard period. That 21 days was rough, but then saluting, and it was a high school, junior college combined. So I never wanted to go to junior college. Then I'm in a place with high schoolers. My drill sergeant was a high school senior. I'm technically a sophomore in college, and I have to salute this young man and respect him. And I mean, it's just, when you talk about groveling in humility, it was a very, very humbling experience. Again, from a basketball perspective, I was pretty good. Like
Yeah.
if I would have been able to play at that school, oh, and with my brother, that would have been so cool. So it's like one dream kind of moved, right? I was like, okay, I can't make the NBA. I'm not at Division 1, but what about this other dream? I can play with my brother.
Yeah.
And then that gets evaporated. I get my associate's degree. I'm about to get my associate's degree. And at least this coach had the decency to say, you know what? I screwed up. So let me try to help you find a landing point. So um, there's a couple of schools who end up coming to a few of our practices. And they're basically recruiting me and maybe a few other players on the team. And I appreciate the coach doing that. So he brought these coaches, and I had two options at this point. I could go to another school in New Mexico, or I can go to a school in West Texas. Both of these are going to be small schools, so different than the
Yeah.
level of basketball I was at when I was at Division 2 school out in North Carolina. But I'm like, you know what? It's an opportunity to play
Yeah.
basketball, and maybe some great things will happen. I'm gonna keep the dream alive. I'll tell you something that happened, which let me know exactly where I was. So on the recruiting visit to the school in West Texas, they had to pick me up, I think I don't know if it was at the Roswell, New Mexico airport or Lubbock air. I don't remember now. I just remember driving for like an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And it's just nothing out there if you've ever been out there. There's
Yes.
nothing except mountains out into the distance.
Yep.
The coach, I'm just looking at the mountains because, it's not something I see a whole lot. I'm like, wow, look at all the mountains. It's incredible. I'm like, wow, those mountains look like they are so far away. I mean, but they're probably not as far as I think they are. And the coach made some remark to basically say, yeah, your eyes are limited to only 10 miles. So, it's those mountains are definitely not any further than that. And I'm like, huh? Like, and then he said something else that just didn't compute. I'm like, I think we can see mountains that are more than 10 miles away. And then I look over and he's just so sure of himself. And I say, these are my options.
Yeah, exactly. That one made it a little easier. Yeah.
In that moment, I'm like, man. Oh, so fast forward. I decided to pick the school in West Texas.
Yeah.
Here's what I found out about the school in New Mexico. Had I chose to go there, I would have been fortunate to go to a place where the coach would later be fired for kicking players into private parts. Those were my two options.
Okay. So that wasn't the school your brother was at. That was a school you would have moved to.
The school I would have moved to.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So there's a bright side to this whole thing.
I chose the least of two bad options, I guess you
Yeah.
could say. And it was just, again, not a good situation. I hated that school. I would say I hated the military school, but I began to appreciate the military, and I began to appreciate the cadets, and I began to appreciate military history and just the importance of rank and structure and discipline in a way that I hadn't really appreciated it before. At this third place out in West Texas, I just hated it.
Yeah.
The coach really didn't have a clue what he was doing. Maybe would be a good high school coach, but compared to the coaching that I had gotten at that first place, even though that coach was also not very good person, he was a genius when it came to basketball.
Yeah.
And at this place, my teammates, they just weren't nearly as talented. And I was frankly slower than I was before. I had lost athleticism. I could still dunk and all that kind of stuff, but my enthusiasm wasn't there. So I ended up being like the third or fourth highest scorer on the team. I played, most of the second half of that season, but certainly wasn't going to be enough to attract the attention of professional people. I may have averaged 8, 10 points a game, that kind of a thing. Probably averaged 4 assists. Not bad numbers,
Yeah.
but not great either. So now fast forward, and I think it's like March, right? March Madness, right? So that's the end of the basketball season. And now it's time for end of the season coach and player meetings. What a lot of people don't know about athletics and sports and scholarships is that I found out the hard way that these are 1-year renewable scholarships. And they renew basically at the lower levels, not Division 1 prime time, but at the lower levels if the coach decides he wants to keep you around. And our coach, there were rumors that were floating around, and I was like, really? That would be kind of crazy. But there were rumors going around that he was going to release like half the team. And so get to my meeting with the coach. He sits me down. The vibe is not good. And I'm like, wow, he is really going to do this. And so, again, being the starting point guard, one of the top 4 or 5 scorers on the team, 3 or 4 scorers on the team, he decided to say, Tim, I'm going to let you go
Wow.
of your basketball scholarship. Not going to renew it.
Wow.
It's like, So that was the, what they call it, the straw
Broke the
that
camel's
broke
back.
the camel's back. That was it.
What an ego shot too, because like you're not even at a school you want to be at. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, it's like you're like I can't imagine what you're going through at that point. 'Cause you're like, I don't
Yeah.
even want to be here,
Yeah.
and this is like I settled for this place, and
That's
they still,
exactly right. And
yeah,
they don't want me either.
yeah,
So when you talk about rejection,
yeah,
you talk about feeling like, God, where are you? You know, I was raised in a family of faith. God, I thought you put this dream in my heart
right,
to like
mm,
play, and I was good. And all these people said these things about me, and I believed them. And my mom encouraged me, and I was all region, you know, in a big school. And what's up? And I ended up just being so depressed. My normal playing weight was between 175 pounds and maybe 182.
hmm,
I ended up ballooning to like 195 pounds. My face was like bloated. My love for the game went from 1000% to like 0.
mm,
I hated basketball. I hated the school. I didn't want to be in school. At this point, I thought maybe it's just better I just drop out altogether.
yeah,
Um, that's where my mind was at that point. I just didn't see any bright spot. So the options in front of me at this point now are I can stay at this school because I'm about a year away, maybe a year and a half away from graduating with an
hmm,
undergraduate degree. But they had like a general business major, and I didn't really like that. And I would have had to pay money to a school I hated. That just didn't feel right.
no,
So I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back home to the local university there. Oh God, but then I gotta live with my mom. I don't want to go backwards to that. I've been on my own now for 3 years. And anyway, just the way God moves, at least in my opinion, how he moves is that my mom ends up meeting this guy. She's a flight attendant. So she meets famous people and, you know, stuff all the time. I used to get all these autographs from these NBA players, you know, that was kind of cool. But she meets this executive, and this executive recruits at colleges. And he works for, I think, a pharmaceutical company called Baxter International, if I'm not mistaken, out in California. And he's like, well, if your son is in a really bad spot and he wants to be able to get a finance degree, this is where I recruit. My company's not even based there, but when we send our people to go recruit, they recruit at Texas A&M and they recruit at the University of Texas. So, you know, that's where you ought to have them go. So she relays this message to me, and this time I do decide to listen to my mom.
moms are always right. Just saying. Keep
As
this
a
for my
mom.
son.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
keep this
right?
for my son to come back to at some
I
point.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I decided to apply to both of these schools. The first school I applied to is University of Texas. And my grades are pretty good, so I feel very confident that I'll get into these schools, even though their business programs, both of them are pretty, you know, highly thought of
Competitive.
and stuff. I check in because I haven't heard from UT. I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, with my application, can you guys give me an update? You know, am I in? Am I out? You know, defer, whatever. And they're like, oh, we can't seem to find your application. Literally. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Once again, Lord, where are you? So I call A&M. I'm like, have you seen my application?
Yeah, do you have my application?
Anyway, they're like, yeah, we did. We'll get back to you within a week or something like that. And I was accepted into their business school, the Mays Business School at Texas A&M. And kind of the rest is history because that began a trajectory that was so different than the 4 years prior. But I didn't I didn't really want to kill my basketball dream. I still wanted to
Yeah.
pursue it because it's on the inside of you. You know, a big part of my identity was as an athlete. To not play for my school, to not go to practice, to not compete, like that's just in me, right? For
Yeah.
like the last 10, 11 years as a student athlete. So to like let that go was very, very difficult. When I hear people talk about professional athletes, and you know, many of them, right, they quote unquote retire in their 20s, especially in football. Maybe you get to be into your 30s. I mean, look at LeBron James is well into his 40s and still playing. Dirk, right? Nowitzki got to play until he was 40. That's great, but that doesn't
It's very
happen
rare. Yeah.
to most. So when they talk about the depression that comes and everything when the season is over and you know you're done, like I get that because that's kind of where things were for me at that point.
So at what point does this whole, like, obviously you're going through the motions just to move. Maybe at what point do you see that God was in it the whole time? And, I believe every valley has a reason that you're in it and a lesson, and it puts you on a trajectory that maybe you
Mm-hmm.
had not planned for
Mm-hmm.
and better than you could have ever imagined. At
Yeah,
what point do you start seeing this in a different light?
probably the summer is
Okay.
when it first
Summer
began. The
before your
summer
senior
before
year?
I start technically my fourth year of college.
Okay,
So
fourth year. Okay.
technically it
Yeah.
should be my senior year, but the way transfer credits work out is that when you've taken statistics at school A and you want to transfer your statistics credit to school B, you know, school B, if they are a little bit more elite than
Yeah.
school A, they're like,
They're not going
oh,
to take
that's
it.
not the same statistics here. So I ended up having like 157 or 160 hours for a 120-hour degree. So unfortunately, I
Mm.
had to do 2 more years and a summer at Texas A&M. But that first summer, right before I get ready to start my fourth year, I get an internship at American Airlines. And it was a part of this program called Inroads. And Inroads was a program that was designed to help minority students get internships that otherwise they wouldn't be eligible for or even know existed. And they kind of do a lot of professional development. It's just a wonderful summer program. Starts in the late spring and goes all the way through. And when I got accepted into that, that was pretty exciting because now you're around your peer group, other college students from all across Texas,
Yeah.
and you're all are trying to get these internships. And I got an internship because it's not guaranteed. You have to interview. There's a process. You have to have a minimum GPA, all this kind of stuff. And I got that internship, and that was kind of cool. That was the first step of kind of moving away from sports, like you know, as like my lifeline,
Yeah.
to shifting towards business, and that was a very first important step. And then at A&M, I got into a business fraternity. So again, I'm really kind of like closing the book on all things basketball. Now I still played in the gym, and our basketball team at A&M was so bad that I thought, man, I might be able to walk on.
There's
So,
still a chance. Yeah.
but the truth of the matter, back to your question, is that when I got accepted to A&M, and I knew that it was a situation where my mom just happened to talk to this man on this
Yeah.
airplane, it's like, okay, God, is that you? And so I believe that God was in the middle of that. I couldn't at this point see how he was in the middle of all this disaster the prior 4 years. But as I went through my experience at A&M and then ultimately, you know, positioned myself to be able to get a couple job offers and job offers from really good companies, and I could, you know, get paid and have a good degree, I could begin to see that there was some benefits to going through a bad situation in order to kind of get into a good situation. But there were many more things that I wouldn't really grasp until later, which we can talk about here in a second.
Well, I was just going to say, like, how did all of that shape you in your career? I mean, obviously, you've had a great career.
Yeah.
And I mean, just all those disappointments early and the letdowns and the darkness. How did that shape you managing your career and, going all in on something to a career path, whatever that is? What were those lessons that helped drive you?
A few things. One, I really learned the important lesson of never delegating your life to another human being.
Mm.
Never delegate your life to another human being. My situation is that I trusted these adults, Coach A, Coach B. I thought they were looking out for my best interests. I thought they had experience in this field. They would know better and more than I did. And I just accepted the fact when they told me, yeah, you'll get a medical red shirt. Oh, yeah, when you transfer in here, no problem. If you played exhibition games, don't worry about that. Um, and so I've learned as an adult two things. I trust, but
Yeah.
I verify.
Okay.
So that's just natural in me. I think because of that pain, because
Yeah.
of, I mean, when you get let down, whether it's your parents or whether it's by people who you love or you trust, when you get let down by people who have those positions of authority, I think it impacts you in a different kind of a way. For those who
Yeah.
are listening, you probably know that feeling I'm talking about. And I think that was really I mean, it happened once out of the time I can think about in my life, but my mainstay, my mother, was nothing like that. Like she was, but when these coaches just gave me bad information, I realized, man, I've got to do two things. I can trust you, but I'm going to go verify. And the second
Yeah.
part of that verify is that when it comes to details, documents, I read. I read the fine print. And some people say, well, you take too long to read. Why didn't you just, just send that to a lawyer, an attorney? I still do some stuff where I send it to an attorney, but I will still probably read
Yeah.
some of the main finer points for myself just because I refuse to delegate my life and major decisions to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something I also think attention to detail. Not to say I didn't have any of that before, but I just think details matter in certain instances, not all the time. That doesn't mean being detail oriented. There is a
Right.
difference between being detail oriented, which just keeps you in the weeds all the time, versus having attention to the details that matter. And so maybe that helped contribute, to being a finance major and working in accounting for a number of years in my corporate career. Um, I think all that stuff played some role. So those are
Yeah.
some of the benefits that came through that situation. Maybe another one is that I think I've got a tolerance for people who may have had a slow start.
Mm.
I think I've got an
That's a good.
understanding
Yeah.
for people who may have gone quote unquote the wrong way
Right.
or went with the wrong crowd or made some poor choices or I had my pride in the way. I didn't listen to my mom. My ego is like, man, I'm a better basketball player over the summer. I'm going back. I'm gonna show all these, and I can understand why people have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
I get that. Also have a tolerance and an understanding for why people may not have gone down this straight and narrow path. In fact, I'll tell you, this is kind of a funny thing, but like one of the reasons my wife, I mean, she said yes right away when I proposed, but
Uh-oh.
she said in her mind, it's like, how can you be this way and go to like 4 colleges? It's just a natural question, right? What was wrong? Like, what was going on? And yeah, a lot was going on, and a lot was wrong, and some of it was on me. It's not one of those situations where I just blame my coaches for everything. Part of it was I had an opportunity after the end of my freshman year to go right to this school in New Mexico. I definitely would have had 3 full years of eligibility left, and I could have gone.
Yeah.
It was a I couldn't mentally get my head around that, and that just goes to show us that sometimes you got to take 2 or 3 steps back before you climb the ladder.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are just some of the things I think that are important that I got. I'm probably more emotionally available. I never cried as a kid, like never,
Interesting.
never. But now, man, I'll be on a plane sometimes. I'm watching a movie and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm just more emotionally available than I think I would have been because I had to tap into that at the military school and at the West Texas school because there were just so many nights of depression and just crying. And the only real person I had, a little bit of my brother, but my mom. There
Yeah.
really wasn't any other support system. Couldn't go to the team, couldn't go to the coach. So that's probably one of the other benefits.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
what are the lessons that you want people, I mean, this is a great story. We're going to have a lot of stories of just people having to course correct, having that, I've had them too. The nights of just sobbing, like you just don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
What are you hoping people get from these stories and these episodes for their own life?
You know, something that has helped me, I actually heard in church, it was a message that was being delivered. It was like in a relationship marriage series.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular speaker said something that has stuck with me. This is probably 10, 12 years ago. He said, when bad things happen to you, instead of asking, why me? Why now? Why? Whatever, fill in the
Mm-hmm.
blank. Instead of asking why, ask what.
Mm.
Instead of asking why, ask what. Instead of asking why is this happening, accept that it is happening and figure out what is the lesson, what is the growth that I'm supposed to be getting from this. And that message from 10, 12 years ago has absolutely stuck with me.
That's good.
And so when I approach difficult seasons or challenges or setbacks or disappointments, because of that 4-year stretch, which I would say just built up an incredible reserve of resiliency, there's nothing that I really believe I cannot get through.
Yeah.
And if we train our brains to ask the what question, I think we'll find it to be much more helpful in us getting out of the pit, because everything starts with a perspective shift in our mind. As an executive coach, that's what I work with people, training them on, is their mental makeup, call it the mental filter, right? Stuff comes in, both our ears, our kind of synapses, and then how do we process that as it kind of comes through? So as an executive coach, it's a lot about working with these leaders to begin to retrain our brain to think differently. And then when we're able to think differently, we're able to believe differently, and then we're able to take different actions. And so if nothing else from season 4, setbacks, disappointments, failures, hope that everybody, one, gets inspired to know that, you know what, other people have been here too.
Yeah.
It doesn't last forever. And then secondly, from a practical standpoint, if I ask myself the question, what, instead of why, that could be really helpful to navigate up out of it.
I like that. I like that a lot. What versus why?
Yeah.
Any other?
I don't think so. I think that's the main takeaway. I think the other thing that going through some of those periods helped me to do was it really forced me to sort of take ownership of my own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in corporate careers, a lot of corporations that I work with, their message is employees own and drive their own career. Employees, you own and you drive your own career. We, as your employer, is not responsible for that. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think there's also some subtlety.
Yeah.
But I do think the more we, as individuals, leaders, professionals, we recognize that there's some things that are within our control and there's some things that are outside of our control. And doing everything we can about the things that are within our control to take real ownership and accountability. Once again, I also think that helps us kind of get through the season that we're in. And, you know, again, these things, they don't last forever. Sometimes it can feel that way. Just this weekend, we didn't talk about it before we got on, but unfortunately, we had the good old hot water heater. Water comes through because where we live, for whatever reason, they design these houses where they're in the second floor, comes right through my wife's clothes closet, right? Big mess.
Yeah.
This does not last forever. Here in a few
Exactly.
days, they're going to replace that. Unfortunately, we were able to get the water shut off. It stinks. It sucks. A lot of listeners, you've been there. But this is just one of those things that sometimes happens. And so I think when we face these setbacks, we just say, look, this is something that happened or is happening. It won't last forever, and I can get through it.
Yeah. I like that. All right. Well, I'm very much looking forward to season 4.
Yeah.
So, an incredible story. I know I can't imagine. And it happened so young, you know what I mean? Usually.
Yeah.
But definitely much bigger than a water heater.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Well, looking forward to season 4.
All right, I am as well. Thanks, Erin. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. If you got value from this podcast, don't keep it a secret. Subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and share it with someone you know. Until next time, remember, Our world is starving for bona fide leaders. Take your leadership to the next level by applying one thing you heard today.